In the secluded enclave of Willowbrook, the day emerged with a radiant brilliance, sunlight streaming in fractured beams through the boundless, undulating fields of corn that cradled this diminutive rural haven. The town, a mere whisper in the vast wilderness, seemed to hum with the vibrant melodies of life, the morning air filled with the harmonic symphony of chirping birds and the gentle hum of insects. But as the sun reached its zenith, an ominous hush slowly draped itself over the landscape, the bright melodies of life dissipating one by one into a haunting silence, leaving behind a void swollen with foreboding. I, a lone wanderer in this serene terrain, felt the first icy fingers of unease curl around my mind, a creeping chill whispering of unseen, malevolent watchers hidden in the rustling stalks. My eyes anxiously scanned the surroundings, darting from leaf to leaf, finding only the hypnotic dance of the emerald cornstalks bending and swaying in the soft breeze. I shook off the nerves as paranoia born of solitude creeping in and quickened my pace along the narrow, rutted path leading back to the comforting semblance of civilization. However, the shadows weren't mere figments of an overactive imagination triggered by isolation. They lingered, fragmented and swirling, always teasing the edges of my vision, vanishing when I wheeled around. They spoke in fractured psychic echoes, their eerie whispers a painful intrusion stabbing into my thoughts. My heart galloped, feet stumbling in a clumsy dance of panic. Escaping the fields that now harbored an unseen menace, I sought the reassuring sanctuary of the town. But Willowbrook offered no refuge from the malevolence now engulfing it. The streets were deserted, abandoned homes and shops displaying shattered windows and doors swaying listlessly in the wind's mournful tune. The playground's swings twisted and creaked, moving as if pushed by invisible children. The oppressive silence was punctuated only by the occasional broken slam of a door swaying on rusted hinges. A sense of dread slithered and clawed at my throat as I confronted the stillness, the emptiness, the whispers of unseen horrors. Where had everyone gone? A sudden scraping sound snapped my attention to the corner of the bakery, where a gnarled hand grasped weakly at the open air before falling back to the dusty pavement. My breath hitched in my throat as I recognized old Mr. Kendall, sprawled on his back, his wizened face twisted into a grim mask of agony, filmy eyes whitening as they stared blindly upward at the fading sky. I could only watch helplessly as the last feeble vestiges of life drained from his body, his final ragged breath escaping in a thin, reedy whisper into the gathering wind. Retreating in horror, I felt the crushing weight of unseen but malicious gazes tracking me from every conceivable shadowed nook and corner. The once welcoming streets now seemed a trap, leaving me exposed, terrifyingly alone, save for the creeping, shadowy presences whose unnerving encroachment I could feel prickling on my skin. A blind, panicked sprint down a narrow alley led to a jarring collision with another solid, breathing human being. We spoke in frantic, hushed tones, our conversation a desperate exchange of questions with no answers, the words spilling out over each other. She knew nothing either, her wide, tear-filled eyes mirrors of my own hopeless confusion about the malevolent force that had simply taken over. The creeping psychic invaders seeped further into reality with every passing minute, warping the familiar into a nightmare landscape. Crouching breathlessly behind a rusted dumpster, we felt the ravenous shadows drawing nearer, their unearthly screams a grating symphony shredding through my mind, their insatiable hunger palpable. "What do we do?" the girl whimpered as the shrieking rose louder in pitch, her voice thin and trembling in terror. I had no answers to offer, only the primal, drumbeat instinct hammering in my head to run, to hide, to survive. We fled through a maze of debris-strewn back alleys as the once idyllic town reshaped itself into a horrorscape before our eyes. Clinging shadows draped over everything as buildings crumbled to dust, trees melted into grasping claws that snatched at us. At last, darting behind the sagging ruins of a shed, creaking on broken hinges, we huddled together, our breath coming in ragged gasps. But even in this temporary haven, the writhing darkness relentlessly found us. The rotting wooden door splintered with a crack, broken shards raining down. Countless empty onyx eyes fixed hungrily on us from the roiling void beyond. A rasping, psychic howl slashed into my brain, white-hot needles of pain driving deep. The girl loosed a glass-shattering shriek as the swarming shadow forms poured forth and dragged her into their smothering embrace. I watched helplessly as her face seemed to dissolve into the seething, dark mass, her mouth frozen in a soundless wail, eyes pleading for salvation until they winked out, swallowed by the maw. Her last tortured pleas for my help echoed in my mind as the smoky tendrils eagerly reached for me next. My vision whited out in an explosion of pain. When the world swam back into focus, I found myself unsteadily kneeling in a swirling gray limbo. Mewling, translucent shapes surrounded me, more frail and pitiful up close than terrifying. Behind their gauzy alien forms, I sensed an oceanic exhaustion. The crushing weight of eons spent wandering the empty wastes between stars, scraping by on the meager psychic drippings of half-dead worlds. Their wispy mental whispers rasped with the misery of the damned. Willowbrook's rich tapestry of life force, love, and laughter sang to them like cool water in the desert, a song those dying of desperate thirst must yearn for. They experienced our world not as something to destroy, but as a banquet feast laid before starving creatures who had known only the ashen bones of long-dead civilizations. One last glorious partaking of vibrant energy before the endless night fell. I cannot claim any heroism from those hours spent adrift in that howling, insane space between dimensions. But somehow, fleetingly, there was contact. A fragile moment of true understanding that passed between human and shadow. But it faded as quickly as it had sparked. Their appetites were primeval, primordial, their desperation too severe and raging to resist such ripe, intoxicating spiritual fruit a moment longer. I added my voice to the symphony of screams as the last pitiful shreds of our once peaceful reality and existence were utterly engulfed by the ravening shadows. Perhaps in some gentler dimension, another version of events played out where stalwart souls forced compassion to bloom like a rose between the worlds, until redemption finally kissed damnation in transcendent union. But this was not that kinder tale. The previous days and nights in Willowbrook will soon fade and blur, lost in the mists of history, along with everything wholesome and full of light that was consumed. Only the shambling, bloodthirsty shadows will roam the barren fields and swagger through the empty pastures of gnawed bones, arrogantly recalling the glorious, juicy softness that they greedily feasted upon in the doomed town. Let this grim account serve as warning to any who still dare cling to fragile hope in the face of the encroaching dark. The beasts beyond the veil are eternally patient, and the lavish banquet of our extinction, our obliteration, has only just begun. So bar the doors, swallow your fear, silence your screams. Pretend that a few more days and hours with your loved ones in the blessed light and warmth of the sun are still possible. Tell yourself that you are not fattened livestock awaiting slaughter, even as you feel the hot, damp graze of ravenous teeth against your undefended belly. The corn still whispers secrets to itself. Church bells peal out refuge and redemption. But hark! That sonorous ringing you hear is not heaven's music, but rather the salivation of unknowable monstrosities and the mocking laughter of demons beyond the void. And Willowbrook's horrific fate now slams against your last fragile defenses. You cannot resist the inexorable tide of darkness rising to engulf us all.